he sent me a text. I'd done a CNN interview.
Who, Donald?
Yeah, Donald sent, well, what he would do is he would write it and then somebody would scan it and then they'd email it to me. And so he sent me what happened because he saw a CNN interview where I criticized him. And I told him, I'm like, you got to start learning the issues. Right? You can't just...
Mark Cuban just went on Theo Von's podcast and explained to millions of young men that Donald Trump is a scammer who has ripped off people that Mark knows personally. And I swear, Mark Cuban is like the anti-Trump. He is an actual billionaire with a spine, with a set of guiding principles, who understands the world around him and who can empathize with the struggles of everyday Americans despite his current wealth and current status. You can't say any of those things about Donald Trump. In fact, Donald Trump's personality is the exact opposite. That is why I had to play this clip of Mark Cuban on Theo Von's podcast. And if you've been watching my show for a while, you know that I always say Democrats really need to start dominating this bro circuit, is what I call it. Donald Trump went on Aiden Ross's live stream. He went on Logan Paul's podcast, Theo Von's podcast, and I don't think Kamala should do that exactly, but I do think Kamala and Tim Walz and Pete Buttigieg, Mark Cuban, these are all likable people, and they need to show the American people that they are likable. I think Mark Cuban going on Theo Von's podcast is great. I know people want Tim Walz to go on Howard Stern. Kamala Harris can go on Hot Ones. Stuff like that with cultural importance, I think, is good for campaigns. But without further ado, we have 39 days to go until the election and no time to waste. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe. Let's lay the groundwork. Mark Cuban has been going hard against MAGA for years now, but over the past month, he's been a really effective surrogate for the Democrats. He tweeted out last week, "The lack of understanding of business is insane." And it's Donald Trump saying that we should put 200% tariffs on John Deere, which is insane. Trump says if tractor companies like John Deere move their business to Mexico, he's going to put a 200% tariff on them. Mark Cuban responds, "The lack of understanding of business is insane. Put a 200% tariff on the American company moving some production to Mexico, but tariff Chinese manufacturers only 10 or 20% so that the Chinese products will be cheaper to sell in the US than the American company. Good way to destroy a legendary American company and increase costs to American buyers." You have to think about what this would do to the market. John Deere outsourcing some of its production to Mexico is fine as long as they are still making a profit and drawing business in America, but Trump would genuinely nuke John Deere's business by raising all of their costs by 200%. I mean, those tariffs would necessarily be passed off to consumers, so John Deere would be knocked out of the market. Meanwhile, China is able to sell these same products for even cheaper. So China would be able to flood the market while John Deere would go extinct, basically. That is what Mark Cuban is getting at here. Watch this clip of him absolutely eviscerating Trump on the Theo Von podcast.
He's ripped off, I can't even tell you how many people, right? People I know, right, that he's ripped off.
I mean, there's been a lot of alleged issues with contractors.
No, I'm telling you about, yeah, I'm telling you people I know, right? He, like, Barbara Corcoran, she said something about this from Shark Tank, right? He hired her or asked her to sell a bunch of condos in a new building that he put up. And she did. Sold everything she asked. He offered her $4 million. He wouldn't pay her. She had to sue him just to get her money.
But how does somebody benefit by behaving like that? Like as a...
When that's the only way you know? I mean, he was born rich. Right? He's never had to find his, Damon John.
Oh, yeah. He's always had good hair, dude. Rich people always have clean hair, I remember.
I don't know about that, but Trump University, Trump Foundation, Trump Soho, just example after example where he ripped off hard-working Americans again and again and again. And to think all of a sudden he just changed who he is, just not the case. Like, look what he's doing fucking now, right? A mint silver coin. If you're a billionaire, right? All of a sudden you just made $1 billion. So you took your company public, you put $1 billion in the bank. Are you going to be selling silver medallion coins?
What do they look like?
Does it matter?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
You know what I'm talking? It's just.
Is it like so? Oh, you mean like one of those
the commemorative coins?
Oh, commemorative
right,
coins.
He's selling sneakers.
Oh, that's gangster, bro.
But why, if you're rich, selling sneakers, right?
Because
NFTs.
Donald also has he has a very
Look at this shit.
Those
right?
fucking
See, that is the type of conversation that has to happen, because I don't know if you guys saw the dynamics at play there, but Theo Von isn't explicitly a Republican or a Trump supporter. He's more Republican coded. I mean, he talks in a Southern accent, but he's a compassionate liberal type dude. He, of course, supports marriage equality. But in that clip, Theo Von was playing soft defense for Donald Trump. He was kind of squirming there. He's not even a Trump supporter, and you can tell that because he's a bro, he feels like he needs to support Donald Trump, and he began squirming, making jokes about, oh yeah, he does have good hair. He called the medallion and the sneakers gangster when Mark Cuban's entire point was that they are a scam. I have another clip of Mark Cuban telling stories about Trump.
Like, I'm not a liberal, right? I mean, socially I probably am. Physically, I'm conservative, and I'm an independent. I don't belong to either party. I don't give a shit about either party. You know, but I'm a Harris fan because I'm not a, you know, I like her policies. I've had some influence in her policies, and I'm not a Trump fan at all.
Yeah.
Used to be, but they kind of grew out of it.
Have you yeah, what do you think made you grow? Like that's an interesting term, like grew out of it.
You know, once I came out saying I was for him, right?
Oh, you had come out and said
I said,
that?
yeah, I said
Okay.
it was the best thing that happened to politics because he wasn't a typical candidate. Now, I didn't think he had a
Right,
chance
that's
to.
how I felt.
Yeah, because
I would have elected a fucking donut in there
Well, yeah.
if it wasn't a politician.
exactly right. That's like one of my buddies in Texas. I'm like, why are you voting for Trump? He goes, Mark, I've been voting for politicians my entire life. You know what they've done for me? Nothing. You know the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, right? So I'm like, okay, Dan, I get that, right?
Yeah.
But as I would talk to him, he sent me a text. I'd done a CNN interview.
Who, Donald?
Yeah, Donald sent. Well, what he would do is he would write it, and then somebody would scan it, and then they'd email it to me. And so he sent me what happened because he saw a CNN interview where I criticized him, and I told him, I'm like, you got to start learning the issues, right? You can't just talk. You know, at some point, all these things are important, and if you're going to be president and you've got a chance to win, then you've got to learn this stuff. And I just never felt he made an effort to learn anything, not just that, but anything, right? And so whenever you try to get into a conversation about details, it never worked. Now, all that said, even though I don't think he'd make a good president, I don't think he was a good president before, when he did become president, when he asked me to come help during COVID, right, when he asked me to help about healthcare, I showed up,
Yeah.
right, because country over party, right? And I would do it again if he wins, but I hope he doesn't.
Yeah.
And that is what everybody who has worked closely with Donald Trump has said. There is more to the clip, but you can look at quotes from some of his closest advisors, some of his closest allies in his cabinet. They say he has the understanding of a kindergartner of the world around him. He doesn't understand foreign policy. He's like a fifth grader. Someone said he's effing childish, and that maps on exactly to what Mark Cuban is saying about Trump's inability to learn anything.
Have you donated to the Harris campaign?
No, I don't. I haven't given money to any candidate, PAC, anything politics related to either party since 2001. And that was like, I don't even know, to Zoe Lofgren. I don't remember why I gave her money, right? That's when I had broadcast.com.
So this is exactly what needs to be happening. We need more outreach to these spaces. A lot of the people listening to this podcast are genuinely 20, 21-year-old dudes. Obviously some young women, but most of the podcast guests are men, like UFC dudes or people like Mark Cuban or Donald Trump was on this podcast. So mainly men watch it. Many of them have never interacted with these fact patterns before, and it's honestly not their fault. If you're a 21-year-old who's checked out of politics, who don't pay attention every day, and all they know about Donald Trump is that he got assassinated and got a photo out of it, probably that things were slightly cheaper under him, probably that he uses all these crazy talking points. I mean, they think he's some sort of macho man, so it's important they know that he is a whiny baby because they've never seen his Truth Social posts about him terminating the Constitution. I think Mark Cuban should have absolutely said, hey, Trump wanted to terminate the Constitution. Do you guys know that? I'm sure they don't. If you guys enjoyed this video, drop a like, comment a blue heart, hit that subscribe button, have a great rest of your day, and peace out.